What's up, everybody? Luis Acevedo here, and we're back with another MOT special. As I've said several times before, we're doing these MOT crypto specials in place of the regular MOT finance that typically comes on at these times. And that's due to one of our guys, Malcolm Reese. He is the co host of MOT Finance, but he is also in the National Guard. And in the state of Ohio, the National Guard has been deployed out to a lot of testing sites, jab sites, and hospitals. So he's doing that, and we're doing this. So we'll give it a little bit here before we jump into it. This Sunday for MOT Today is going to be pretty cool. So as you guys know, Mick is my co-host on the MOT Today show. And we break that down into three segments: state, national, global. Last week, we had somebody tune in for, or come in on the interview rather, for the global, right? We had Bronwyn Williams. She came in, talked about South Africa. This week, we have Karen Kessler. She is a reporter, journalist with Idea Stream, the State House Bureau. So she's a journalist here in Ohio, working with a lot of the big state issues. She's written a lot of articles, it looks like, for the gerrymandering and the legislation redrawing of maps here. And that appears to be a big issue going on everywhere across the country. So we have that interview lined up for this Sunday at noon. Be on the lookout for that. And it's a lot of good stuff coming our way. Also, we hit 300 subscribers today, just about 20 minutes before we went live here. So that's really cool. Thank you all for the support. We really do appreciate it. Our goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers by July 31st. And then that's when we'll be able to start, allowing the super chats and all that stuff. But, we'll let that just grow and just keep doing what we're doing here. So we really do appreciate it. And then this Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, we will be doing a sports podcast. Okay, so we will be having a sports podcast, and that's going to be really cool. So I'm actually gonna start doing the live also from Instagram on my phone. So bear with me here. Get some people coming in all over the place. So, all right, what's up, Instagram? Let's start sending this out to a few people. All right. So, yeah, guys. Like I said, we're going to give it a little bit here, wait a few minutes, let some people start coming on in, and then we will get started with the topics today. I think the topics today are pretty good. I think you guys will like them. They're topics I feel that should be getting more attention than they are. Maybe they are. I just don't really see it talked about a whole lot. Maybe just in like the echo chambers and stuff for these certain coins. But yeah, guys. So really, really cool stuff coming out here soon. We already got cool stuff out right now. So like I said, thank you all for the support. Really do appreciate that. So yeah, Thursday, like I said, we have the sports podcast that'll be airing first on Instagram, and then after a couple weeks of getting fine tuning and getting the rhythm down, we'll be doing it live across all the platforms as we're doing here. And yeah, so that's going to be really cool. I will not be a part of that show. I do not know enough about sports, nor do I really, I just don't really care about sports that much. But I want to make sure that MOT is covering sports. And so since that's not my area of expertise, I want to make sure that we have a good team doing that. And we do. We do have a really good team. Colin and Connor, I believe the way you pronounce their last names is Bratton. Forgive me, guys, if I'm mispronouncing that. And then Zachary Anderson Esquivel will be the other host. So it'll be three guys. They'll be covering, professional sports, fights, all that stuff. They write some articles too. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. Looking forward to that. But all right, guys, let's jump into the topics for today. So the people on Instagram, you will not be able to see the screens I'm sharing since I'm doing that live stream from my laptop, and all my tabs are up on my laptop. So unfortunately, I don't have a way to share all this with you guys. So you'll just have to hear me talk about it. So starting off, we're going to talk about what's going on in Texas right now, because there's a lot of talk in Texas about Bitcoin. And so as we can see here, the Texas governor, Abu, however the heck you pronounce his last name, is incentivizing Bitcoin miners to stabilize the electrical grid. So basically, he wants to try and bring Bitcoin miners to Texas. And the reason for that, so they say, is to make their power grid more stable. That obviously seems counterintuitive, since Bitcoin consumes more energy than it looks like the Google servers do, which is insane, right? And we know that countries like Iran and China will ban crypto during the winter seasons because it takes up too much energy. And so it seems counterintuitive, but the reasoning that he uses here is that, well, the power providers will then set up more infrastructures benefiting everyone. So if you have more people coming out to mine, and you're incentivizing people to use the power to create this new currency, well, then you're going to have, a better chance at stabilizing the power grid, because you will have a stronger, more robust infrastructure to accommodate the growth in the mining and everything like that. I don't know. To me, I don't know. But anyway, so I want to keep going on with what this article says, then we'll get into my opinions and stuff on it. And so, a lot of people are upset about what happened last winter. A lot of people died. A lot of people uh, struggled because last winter, due to the winds more so than the cold air and the snow, lost power. I'm sure a lot of you remember that. And it looks like there was some rumors, not rumors, but anticipation of Texas going through something like that again this winter. And yeah, and that's just due to the anomalies that we've been experiencing in the weather. So let's see here. They're also saying that they would be able to. What's going on, Mick? He's over on the Instagram. What's going on? What's going on? So yeah, and then like I mentioned before, during the winter seasons, like Iran will shut down their crypto mining operations to conserve energy. And the governor would be hoping and anticipating that the Bitcoin miners would pause when there was a demand or a surge in energy. Now, this will get more into my opinions. I think that one of the only way, and maybe I'm wrong here, maybe I'm wrong. This is just my me questioning and just giving my opinion on that, and that is maybe the reason why we are, not we, but Texas wants to, or claims rather, that the Bitcoin mining will somewhat help the system, is because it'll give the government more control over the system and who can use certain, energy. And we already know that there are cities and different states that are working towards creating smart cities with blockchain. So if you look at Nevada, we covered this before. If we look at Nevada, they're trying to allow corporations taking over counties, unincorporated counties, and making their own local governments, making their own police departments, their own schooling system. And So, you know, there's a potential there that a lot of basically it's just a corporate. I don't even know how you would say it. It's just the corporatization of America, pretty much is what's happening. And now we're seeing that with the power grid because you got to have centralized miners in order to do this stuff, right? And I don't know how it's really going to help. I just think it's going to give probably more control over the power grid than they already have currently. And it'll probably help usher in some smart cities and stuff like that. But that's all speculation. I don't know anything like that right there is pure speculation. I will admit that. But what they are trying to do is bring over crypto miners to Texas. And hey, that's cool and all. But the other critique that I have to that is, well, proof of stake, man. Like, why would you take up all that energy, all that unnecessary energy, and not just when you could just use proof of stake, you know? And also, why are we going to try to rely on this cryptocurrency, uh, Bitcoin, that's had two inflation bugs? The network is protected by people who only can protect the network by dumping the coin, because they have to pay the electricity bill. And then not only that, but then you want to make the argument that Bitcoin uses renewable energy. Well, in order to get the materials needed to make the things that produce the renewable or collect the renewable energy, um, I believe you still need to destroy the earth to mine to mine the materials. So there's no avoiding it, right? And so on a lesser scale, if you want to actually reduce the damage that you're doing to the earth, quote unquote, why wouldn't you just go to proof of stake where you just have validators who lock up their coins, right? As opposed to miners, destroying the crypto ecosystem because they're dumping it. They have to dump it in order to make money. So yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think in that as far as that goes for the whole Texas thing. Now, there are, a lot of so before we go into the next one, let's just before we go into the hack that took place, I want to go over some other things in regards to Bitcoin and what's going on, in the political world in regards to that. So there are a lot of politicians now, as I'm sure you're aware, who are accepting Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency as a form of payment. And they are now, like Aaron Rodgers, I think, receives a portion of it. I think that Eric Adams, the mayor of NYC, is receiving a portion of it. I want to say the mayor of Miami is too, and paying his workers in that. And we're seeing this start all over the place, right? And so right here, we actually have a bill in Arizona to make Bitcoin legal tender. And it says, for the purposes of this section, Bitcoin means a decentralization, peer-to-peer digital currency, et cetera, et cetera. So they want to make it legal tender in Arizona. We already know that Miami's trying to do something like that. Also, I believe Miami's trying to make a stable coin. So we're seeing this, we're seeing crypto take off big time, right? And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. You could say it's bullish for the space, but I don't know that a lot of. So my thing is like they're mostly adopting Bitcoin, and that makes sense because Bitcoin has the best brand, right? But it doesn't make sense when you actually see the other products. Well, you can't really say there's that many other products. But when you see finished financial assets and products that are much better than Bitcoin, it's kind of hard to imagine why we would have so many governments going for it, especially with the level of volatility, because people aren't going to want to keep their spending money in something like Bitcoin because the price is going to be so volatile. It's going to be hard to do business, right? And not only that, but how are you going to do chargebacks? Do you just eliminate chargebacks? So like, there's a lot of things that are going to be very complicated moving to stuff like that with any cryptocurrency, right? but more specifically with Bitcoin. And let's say Bitcoin gets hacked again. Let's say Bitcoin has another inflation bug, and as opposed to the quote unquote 21 million, there ends up being billions, right? Because they've had to roll back the chain before, and they had to just fix the code because there was an error, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of things that we can complain about when it comes to this, but overall, we're seeing a lot of general or mainstream acceptance in cryptocurrency, which, overall is a good thing, I think, for the whole ecosystem. And I also think that it opens up the door to, dare I say, sort of breakaway states, right? Because you're no longer dependent on the Federal Reserve printing money when you can just have your really smart people who know how to code mint the money, right? Mine the money, mint the money. So, yeah, I think that this is going to open up a lot of things. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And if you were curious who the senator is that actually wrote the bill or proposed the bill, maybe she had other people working with her too. I'm not too sure. I just know that she's at least the face. Right here, this woman, Wendy Rogers. She is the one leading the way when it comes to trying to pass a bill that would make Bitcoin legal tender in Arizona. So she's a pro-Trumper. She's American first. She's homeschools her kids, which is cool. We're big on homeschooling here. Yeah, so yeah, she's the one that's leading the charge. This woman right here, I guess, used to be in the Air Force. Yeah, so let me know what you guys think about that. And now moving on to another thing here. It's still related to what we're talking about. As I've said before, I think that in the future, the people in crypto who are going to eventually have the majority of money will, or at least be part of the new 1% that's being generated through crypto. They will be controlling the politicians. And so now we're starting to see PACs form. So this is a PAC right here. So it says support candidates to making way, committed to making way for a more secure, competitive, and innovative digital marketplace. So, it goes into their donation requirements. Let's just give this the full screen. And so it tells you exactly what they are. They're providing blockchain innovators the ability to develop their networks under a clearer regulatory and legal framework is vital if the broader, whatever. So, yeah, right here, they don't have any endorsements. There's no news. This is like very, very new, right? But basically, they want to get politicians who will be in favor of cryptocurrencies, right? And reason being, they're going to have they're going to be the ones with the most money. It's that simple. It really is that simple. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. The richest people, a lot of the richest people will be those who held on to their crypto earnings. I mean, if you think about it, there's this address in the Hex ecosystem that people that are Hexicans refer to as the God Whale, right? So this God Whale, I think, invested like $3,000 or something in the Genesis address, the initial coin offering, if you will, for Ethereum. And that turned into like, I don't know, $200-300 million. And like Ethereum's only been out since 2015. So like roughly 6 years, 5-6 years. That's insane. That's insane. So think about a lot of people who have 1,000, 2,000, 100, 500 bucks to throw into crypto here and there, and you get a lot of holders out of that, real investors out of that. You're going to see a lot of regular people become very successful. And I think that it's going to be a good thing. I really do believe that. Because as I was talking with my wife the other day, I actually think that it would be beneficial uh, for society at large if the government or whatever, whatever the government were to give everybody a check every month for X amount of dollars, whatever will be, most reasonable, whether it be 1,000, something like that, right? And then obviously you're going to have your people in the comment sections like, oh, or people watching this, how dare you? That's socialism. You're socialist. But if you think about it, if you give like really smart people access to more money, and ambitious people, um, people will get work ethics. Uh, you give them extra money, more disposable income, they will probably do good. Good. They'll probably have the ability to focus on, something to improve something else. And during times like this, where things are starting to crumble and we're finding new things to replace the old with, it's a time of innovation. This is like the breeding grounds for innovation. And so, if we're able to really, really help out, more of the population, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to increase, like just have. I think it would just be more beneficial for the whole to do something like that. I could be wrong, but that's my opinion, right? So, like, I really do think that if we were to do something like that, it would definitely help out more people than it would hurt. And it already happens in crypto, guys. Whether you want, whether like free money is already out there in crypto, it's out there. So, like, just by participating in some of these networks, you get free crypto. For example, going over into Pulse Chain, right? If you're a Pulse Chain holder, and I'm not promoting any, I'm not even going to mention their names because I don't know enough about them. But if you're a if you are a Pulse Chain sacrificer, you are already guaranteed some airdrops. Like there's like I think at least two projects that have said they will give a certain amount of their coins to sacrificers for Pulse Chain, right? So just participating in the crypto ecosystem has given people free money. And we already know that the money's printed, right? Like they print more money, at least last year they did, than we were taxed, right? Or 2020, I should say. So 2 years ago, right? They've printed more money than we've been taxed, than they've collected in taxes. So it's like, what the hell? Like, why? Why even pay taxes to begin with? Not saying nobody should pay taxes. Obviously, I'm not a tax advisor. And, there are people who do it, right? There are people who actually get away with it. A lot of people don't know that. But there are ways that one could evade, not evade, but lawfully not be subject to them. But that's a whole nother process. And I don't recommend anybody go through there unless you are really like, yeah, that's a whole nother process. But anyway, like that's just too deep. Like I think it's just much easier to just say, hey, I'll pay my taxes than try to get away with it. But there are people who do it. There are people who like have an arrangement where they only pay on their sales tax. So it definitely is possible if you're one of those people who are into stuff like that and have the drive. Maybe it's something worthwhile looking into. But definitely not my thing at all. But anyway, the whole point I'm making here is that there's just so much freaking money to go around, and we already know that more than likely, the money is just going to go back into the hands that really deserve it and earn it. And so if you give, uh, there's probably people who would be able to do better things with more money, I would say. And I think that would outweigh the negative, in my opinion. I think it really would. I think a few people with more disposable income would be able to do a lot more than a lot of people with disposable income doing nothing and draining the system. That's my opinion. And I think crypto really, really, illustrates that in a lot of ways because there's a lot of people who may have not been successful somewhere else, but now they've received financial success that they would have not received, that they would have not received anywhere else, right? And they're doing great things. And I think we see that in the Hex community, especially. We see that for sure in the Hex community. Probably in the Bitcoin community at one time too, in the Ethereum community, I'm sure has a lot of good things going on for it. But I'm more focused in the Hex community, and I see a lot of people doing a lot of cool things in the Hex community, the Pulse community. So, a lot of these people were just working regular jobs, and then they just were able to put a little money into, Hex, and they're doing well. So, yeah, that so with that all being said, I think that we're going to see some really interesting things happen in the near future on the political front and on a financial front too, because we have politicians now supporting cryptocurrencies, but then we also have some people who are still skeptical of them, probably some politicians who are antagonistic towards cryptocurrencies. So, I mean, there are, a lot of different variables. Also, we have tensions between states wanting to secede, especially a state like Texas, right? And there's other states too. Like a lot of people are unaware of, like there's like an eastern half of the country, not half, but a portion of the country, and there's a western portion of the country outside of Texas that are, California is talking about seceding, right? Washington is apparently in this, amalgamation of states to secede, that would like to secede with California as their own thing. And so cryptocurrencies would allow for that to happen. And so that just calls in a whole lot of things into question, as we were talking about before. So it's going to be, I'm fascinated to see how things play out. I really am. And that's why, I really believe in crypto. Pretty much, I don't, I only have a bank account to receive paychecks, and then throw my money in my savings account, which is crypto, which is Hex, more specifically, right? Like Hex is the bear market. The inevitability of a bear market is the reason why I got into it. It was one of the main reasons why I got into Hex, because the APY and the fact that you're still able to generate something during that time, right? So I mean, like it just made the most sense to me that Hex is the way to go. Now, covering some more things here, so like switching it up a little bit because I had some topics I wanted to get to. So that whole series of slides that we went through at first, I diverted a little bit from the main talking points. Just wanted to share some of my opinions on things that I've been talking about for a while, and I don't think many people are paying attention to, like politicians starting to take their orders from people in crypto. But this is a little change of pace here. So it looks like there was a pretty big attack on the bridge between the Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum Smart Chain, and I guess it's the biggest attack in 2022 so far. So I do apologize about the tweet earlier where I said it was the largest hack. I misspoke, so forgive me. I wasn't trying to be clickbaity or anything like that. Just I yeah I made a mistake, which is all good. So anyway, so what happened here is there's this DeFi protocol called Qubit Finance enabled one hacker to walk away with $80 million. And basically they just pointed out a flaw in the code. And they were able to trick it. This is the simplest way, right? So let's just go over here and look at the non-technical. So basically right here, there was this company, the blockchain security company, CertC, and this is what they had to say about the situation here. So they said, for the non-technical readers, essentially what the attacker did is take advantage of a logical error in Qubit's finance code that allowed them to input malicious data and withdraw tokens on Binance Smart Chain when none were deposited on Ethereum. So I'm not a technical guy, right? I'm not a coder. I'm not a developer or anything like that. But what it seems to me is the bridge had admin keys, and those admin keys were exploited, because when you actually look into it a little bit, what the was actually exploited, if I'm not mistaken, was the oh, I'm sorry, guys, you didn't even see that quote that I was reading off, because I have I have it on a different screen here. Let me take it off of that. So then, right here it says the Q-Bridge handler should receive the WH, wrapped Ethereum token, which is the original token address. And if the person who performed the transaction does not have that token, it would not occur. So maybe I'm wrong in assuming the handler is the admin, it's like an admin key. It's like an admin address or something. I don't know. But I do know that they're, like from learning about Pulse Chain and seeing how Richard Hart is developing it, um, there would have to be admin keys in the bridge, right? Like there were things that he thought could that would translate over into decentralizing the bridge for Pulse and Ethereum. But I guess he was surprised to find out that that was not the case. That you do have to have admin keys. There hasn't been a way to do it without admin keys. So I think this is just another flaw of what we see in admin keys. Um, so yeah, and this is actually the second time this has happened with this DeFi protocol, and this is why I think people should be looking into Hex and taking it seriously. Like I think that really, I mean, Hex is the only thing that has like 100% uptime and is pretty much undisturbed by a lot of these hacks. The only people that have gotten hacked in Hex are those that have given up their private keys, right? So like yeah, and so for these DeFi protocols, they a lot of them get hacked, and I think it has a lot to do with admin keys, and so that's what we see here. And so it's very important, to be careful where you park your money. I try to be very cautious with that. That's why I'm only messing with a couple projects, all Richard Hart projects, to be completely honest. But give me a second here, guys. It looks like Malcolm, the co-host of MOT Finance, would like to join in, and he wants to join in on the Instagram. But I think it would make more sense to bring him onto to everything here. So bear with me here. I'm going to go ahead and send him an invite and see if he'll hop in, and then he'll join. He'll probably have some cool takes on this stuff. So let's see. Bear with me here, guys. So yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think about this stuff here. I think it's all pretty interesting, and yeah. So let's send this to him. All right. So I just sent him the invite. He should be. I would imagine he would join here because yeah, he wanted to get accepted and join. So yeah. Let's see. All right. So until then, until I see like a request to actually join in, we'll keep this going here. Now let's. All right. Looks like he hops on in. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Oh,
You hear me?
we were just talking about the hack that took place on the Qubit finance DeFi protocol. $80 million.
Yeah, you'll be perfectly fine. Actually, I'll be right back in 1 sec. Actually, I cannot walk around with this. I mean, I can, but I won't. You're right. Who does? Who does? All right. Sorry. These are the arrangements.
So what's going on, man? How are things where you're at?
Say that again?
How are things where you're at?
Oh, they're pretty moderate as far as that goes. We've been in the process of being moved around like pieces in a checkerboard, and right now I'm lodging in a hotel. because I'm literally in West Virginia at this point. So it's haven't had the time. I'm about to go to my personal room. Give me just one sec.
Yeah, for sure. So, for those of you who are unaware, Malcolm is the co-host of MOT Finance, which, as I've explained at the beginning of this, we had to sort of pivot because he is being deployed out into different, hospitals and testing centers and jab centers, stuff like that. Um, yeah, so that's where he's been. He's been busy doing that kind of stuff, but
And it's
yeah,
been
he's
quite demanding. It's been kind of difficult at times, and kind of like I would say very tedious. And these hospitals are really overwhelmed. Like I'm seeing things firsthand and how these hospital operations are, and it's insane just to see like how stressed out these workers are, and how much of a role we play just being a National Guardsman. It's ridiculous. Like this is honestly the most active National Guardsmen have been, at least in the state of Ohio, in quite a long time, and I can confidently vouch on that. But give me one sec.
So yeah, so let's move over to what's going on in the Hex update. So right here, I like to use Hex Daily Stats. We use that every day to update our community as to what's going on with Hex. So right here, we see the Hex price. You can see all that stuff right over here. On below, we have all that information down there. So yeah, this is some pretty cool stuff. Looks like the daily T-share rate payout for Hex has been around six Hex per day. Man, that's wild. That's wild. Pretty much if you have like 100 Hex, let's. I don't want to do the math, but you can. If you have like 100 Hex and you're getting paid 6 Hex every day, you're making a good chunk of change every year. You're even with the price as it is right now, like you don't even need some astronomical price to do very well and make like an average U.S. salary just by staking Hex and having enough T shares, like 100 T shares or something. Which now it's kind of hard because we can see the price of a T share is, I believe, worth more than an Ethereum. Let's go back up and see. So the price of a T share is almost $4,000. And as we can see at the screen below, I mean,
Wow, that's
Ethereum
crazy.
is $2,500. So a T share is more than an Ethereum right now. So yeah, guys, I mean, like, and think about this: Hex has been consistently right here. Not consistent, it's been fluctuating between mid 20s to like 18, 19 cents for a while, and the rest of the crypto market is severely tanking, right? And Hex just really isn't feeling it as bad as a lot of other coins. Don't get me wrong, it has dipped like 70% or something like that. But when you're getting paid every day just to hold, I mean, you just think about the long term gains. And fun fact, Hex has never, I think like every 6 months, something like that, Hex has made a new all time high about every 6 months. So that's something to think about. It's only been a couple months, maybe 3 months since our last all time high, which was like 56 cents. So, I'm not saying that we're going to hit an all time high in another 6 months because, as they say, although I don't necessarily agree with it, but this isn't financial advice. I do agree with that part. This is not financial advice. The part I don't agree with necessarily is past trends don't indicate what's going to happen in the future. I don't necessarily agree with that. Doesn't make sense because how else can you sort of gauge what's going to happen in the future unless you're going off of things that previously happened? But anyway, Malcolm, I mean, you got any thoughts on that, man?
Yeah. So I like how people are becoming more bullish on crypto, especially in where our society is advancing each and every single day. There's new NFT projects. People are becoming more art. They're becoming more. What's the word that I can use to phrase this? More confident with putting out their art utilizing NFTs as a means to boost revenue. And I know it sounds like I'm spouting out what I'm seeing from social media, but it's been too consistent now. And I'm actually considering doing something along the lines of an NFT with the music that I make, because I'm a compositionist and I'm thinking about doing like a music NFT and seeing exactly how well that does, because the market's still fresh. It's still relatively, at least from my perception, new. And I think as companies begin to adopt this new way of, I guess, what would you use what would you use to describe what's happening right now as far as the inception of NFT projects when it comes to crypto?
What do you mean? Like,
Like, with the fact that people are actually starting to catch on to the wave and are actually starting to invest in crypto more than they are in just assets on the stock market, do you feel as though that even with the limited potential right now, because people are they're skeptical about the market, they're skeptical about both the crypto market and the stock market, but with the fact that people are utilizing their creative liberty, from just my observation, to have these NFT projects, it to me shows a lot of untapped potential, something that's great to come in the future. And I'm excited, honestly. I truly am. So I just wanted to see what your take was on that.
on NFTs as a whole, and like what I think about
Yes.
their future.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I like NFTs. I think that a lot of them are scams. I think that a lot of them, um, the same can be said with crypto, by the way, right? But a lot of the biggest thing that people have to worry about when it comes to NFTs or be cautious of and look for, where are they stored? Most NFTs are stored on interplanetary file servers. Those servers, they're not on the internet. It's like a federated system essentially, and so you're counting on centralization, and it's none of it's on the blockchain. So that 404 era, that classic 404 era that you see when you go to a website that's no longer there or a link that's no longer active, that's what a lot of people have seen in the NFT space. After investing a lot of money, that their NFT is now gone, and all they have is the metadata that then sends them to. It's like, I think it's the metadata, but anyway, really what happens is like you just buy a link of data that then reroutes you to another piece of data stored on a server somewhere, that then shows you your picture. So you're not even actually buying, not even necessarily a picture, but not even necessarily buying an NFT. So I do think that NFTs have a lot of potential, as far as changing the way we do things on a creative level, whether it be you're an author, you're a musician, as you were saying, Malcolm, or simply game developers. I think game developers are going to be one of the first industries, to gaming, rather. It's going to be one of the first industries to really tap into the potential of NFTs. You know, they'll be able to fundraise essentially through an NFT project, give those people exclusive access to what they're making. Yeah, I think a lot of places will go with NFTs and start doing like a fundraising, type deal with special advantages to holding that NFT card. So yeah, I think that there's a space for NFTs. I think that like degrees, certification, stuff like that will be an NFT. I think that they will be NFTs in the future. I think that's also another place that'll also, um, have the most, or provide the most utility to an NFT, or places that serve degrees or certifications. That's my opinion. So
I love it. I love that's a great opinion. Honestly, that gives me a lot of value, and honestly gives me a sense of optimism, because I like to be optimistic, especially when it comes to investing in assets. I've shifted my, and I think I've told my audience this before, and I'll say it again. I've shifted my strategy from trading to more so to investing. And I've kind of find it interesting how, and quote me if I'm wrong, because I love being wrong. There's speculation going around, or perhaps talks going around, that there are group chats populated with scams that might be populated with more people than that of the original group chats when it comes to crypto. How does that make
yeah,
you
yeah.
feel?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of scammers and Telegram chats, Discord chats. Um, a lot of people have lost money that way. Don't ever write MetaMask
I
support in any
I definitely have.
Telegram chat. You're gonna have people come at you and be like, "Yo, fill out this Google Docs form, fill out this Google form, and provide me with your private keys." And they're gonna take your money. So yeah, there's scammers everywhere in crypto, and that's because it's unregulated and people are uneducated. So we can't just say that it's due to uneducation. We can't say that it's due to education solely. It's due to the fact that it's the Wild West, and so nature runs its course.
Right.
And unfortunately, those who are the most vulnerable will be taken advantage of. By the most vulnerable, it's typically new people, um, typically people from foreign countries. Um, and obviously, it happens a lot in the U.S. too, so it's not just that. But I think those are the two main factors is people who are new. So there's education issue there, language barriers. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to be careful. You got to be careful.
And
Never
with
give your
being
private keys to anyone.
absolutely, security is important. It's always important when it comes to finance in any capacity. Like, you need to make sure that your bank account is secure, or perhaps even your portfolio is secure. Of course, your virtual wallet. You obviously need to make sure that you're responsible and you're liable for all of this assets. Like, I will tell you, folks. Okay, I have been scammed before. Okay, it's not a joke. You got to be careful. I
Me
really have
too.
to. Oh, you have?
Yep.
Yeah, man. That's it's hit me different, but I appreciate the fact that I've learned a valuable lesson because I'm just now getting into crypto, guys. So like, I am a novice when it comes to this kind of thing, but traditional markets is more so my area of, of exploration, more specifically speaking, because I was naive at one point, and now since I'm finally waking up to see all of this bursting opportunity, this emerging crypto market, I'm just thinking to myself like, wow, how have I not tapped into this kind of thing a long time ago? But I'm excited though to see just the fact that when you have entities like China, and then of course now you have Russia as well getting involved when it comes to crypto mining, it makes me think like, what is the bigger agenda here? Why are they becoming so restrictive to this kind um, of decentralization, or perhaps just I'm actually curious. What is your take on what's been happening as far as why crypto has been in kind of a bearish trend right now?
Well, I mean, the market was over hot for a long time, overheated for a long time, and you already had some of the richest people buy in, and everything's pretty much bonded to Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin has a dump, everything else is going to follow it pretty much. Um, so I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, there's probably other variables that I'm not sure of. I'm not like a professional when it comes to that kind of stuff. But you touched on
Absolutely.
something interesting as far as the countries banning it and things like that. Like in China, they're starting their own blockchain. They're going to store NFTs on there, and they want to have just the digital yuan, right? They want to just have their digital yuan. They don't want to have Bitcoin, stuff like that. Although they haven't really like made it illegal to own Bitcoin, but you can't mine it there. So they say. I don't know how true it is. I'm not over in China, but I think a lot of reasons why some countries are resisting it is to preserve their national currency. Because without their national currency, they become almost nothing. I mean, then they don't really have any power, so to speak, financially, because it's not their money. Um, and I think that the U.S. is going to be making a move to peg. Uh, I can't even say the U.S. I have to say the Fed will be making a move potentially to see um, stable coins pegged to the USD. That's my belief. That's what I think will happen. I mean, we already have some sort of um, you know evidence to suggest that that's a reasonable outcome because with Libra, which is now I guess not a thing anymore, which was the cryptocurrency Facebook was trying to make. It was a stable coin. It was going to be it's going to be backed by a basket of currencies. And so I think that we're going to see something similar to that with stablecoins. That way, the U.S. doesn't really lose its economic power. I think that's why China's doing it, so they don't lose their economic power, right? I mean, China, back when we were on a silver standard, was getting so much silver because they would just save it. They would save it and wouldn't really trade, their silver with foreigners or any other place. And Britain and probably other countries were not pleased with that, and they discovered gold. And they actually, most people don't know this, but silver is rarer than gold and is more used in gold. So they actually were like, yo, let's switch over to a gold standard because there's more of this gold than there is silver. And, China doesn't have as much silver. So it gives us a little more power. And so basically, that's how the Opium Wars started. It's one of the reasons why the Opium Wars started. They said, okay, so you don't want to go up the silver standard, China? China was like, no. So then they just started flooding their country with opioids. Now, opioids were already a thing in China, but they weren't as accessible as they became during this time. And so the Chinese government blamed it on the Brits. They then went to war. There was like 2 opium wars. But after the first opium war, China dropped the silver standard and went over to the gold standard. So what I'm getting at here is, we're probably going to see similar things, analogous things in the crypto world with other countries. And it's not, China and Russia, I think, are just trying to remain sovereign. I think a lot of these countries that are quote unquote anti-West are more so anti-imperialism and globalist rather than anti-West. And they're just trying to preserve their nation and their cultures and not give up.
I agree. I agree. And I feel like right now, and I'm speaking on behalf of the U.S. economy. I can't speak on behalf of other economies because I don't reside in those countries, but I do monitor global markets as well, but not as viciously as I do with U.S. markets. You have the 10-year Treasury yield at the last time I checked a 1.81%, and as I hope you guys are aware, and if not, this is an opportunity to understand that if the Treasury yield continues to raise, that makes monetary value look a lot less attractive. And in that regards, basically, it wouldn't surprise me that the U.S. is brewing up some kind of a form of crypto opportunity for them to gather a little bit of control, because money does wield influence, especially in the U.S. As we know, money is influence, especially for all those politicians out there. Let me be careful because I don't want to get us,
No, you're good. As long as you're not talking
yelled at.
about the jab.
Yeah, you gotta be careful about that there jab or the.
Yeah.
Anyways, the point is that we're in a very delicate state right now. We are expecting at least 4 interest rate hikes. The first one allegedly taking place in March. And once that 10-year Treasury yield, even the 5-year Treasury yield goes above what it normally was already wavering at because the 10-year Treasury yield was a lot, it keeps increasing because obviously the Fed is anticipating speeding up their tapering program. And in this case, interest rate hikes, they don't look too good for the American economy. And I'm sure the previous guest that you had on the Mot Crypto last episode, which by the way, you guys should check it out, he would agree as well. As these interest rates continue to rise, of course, people that are already big ballers out there are already trying to reposition their finances, find and look for stability. You have all of these people that have Roth IRAs, 401ks, bonds invested in particular tech assets, which, by the way, tech assets are not going to look so hot once these interest rates start to actually kick in. And that's going to make their quarterly results not look so hot. And then once here's what's going to happen this is my personal theory, is that as interest rates continue to climb, the consumer price index will drop by at least 5.6%, which the consumer price index is basically a weighted categorized list of consumer services in the United States. The average consumer, not counting those that are in the military, they don't count the demographic of people in the military. We receive special benefits, so on and so forth, commodities. But anyways, consumers are going to become more frugal with their finances, especially as these interest rates continue to rise. So now people are looking for stability. They're looking for something that they can use as a means of financial leverage. People want that leverage. They want that influence so they can continue to build and expand on what they currently possess. Because the last thing you want to do is invest in an asset, especially in a very delicate time right now with where the market is, because the stock market has been extremely volatile. It for some reason ended today's market with gains. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, I think, closed above a 1%, and I think the Nasdaq, the last time I checked, I think was above 2%. The S&P 500 closed pretty high as well. Pretty decent gains. But what is concerning, at least for those that are investors out there, is the volatility, because you had literally the 2 weeks previous, the market closing at all times lows, closer, the lows closest to that of what it once was in March of 2021, which indicates clearly investors are not happy right now with how the market is performing. I'm not happy with how the market is performing, and I can honestly say that's why I've been holding back on placing my investments. I've had to reposition my portfolio because these assets are not as stable as I want them to be. Because first and foremost, if Apple pushes out an iPhone, what generation are they on? Are they going to be on 14?
Yeah.
If they push out an iPhone 14 and they're charging about between $1,000 to $1,500 a pop for an iPhone, as a consumer myself, because I'm trying to be on a conservative side, that doesn't look attractive to me right now.
Right. Yeah, it looks
I'm
like
not as
Wales
attracted.
only. Wales only is in the chat. He said the biggest monthly portfolio rebalancing since March 2020 is why the market's ripped into the close. So he's a pro at this. And Malcolm, you're pretty knowledgeable too. So yeah, man. So and now
It's
I
just
thought maybe it's just because I'm not up to date enough, but I could have swore I had to search it that they weren't doing anything with the interest rates. I thought that they originally said that they weren't going to do anything with the interest rates like a week ago. But now I look it up and it's like they're talking about having 3 hikes in the interest rate in 2022. So did I miss something? Did I misread something? Or was that
there
accurate
was a
and they just changed it?
there was a Fed meeting that took place this past week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and a lot of Jerome Powell's rhetoric, as always, especially recently, is that first and foremost, and he should have done it a long time. He shouldn't have said it in the first place. That this transitory agenda here, is that it's going to be for a brief period of sustained time in which these interest rates will divvy out, so that it helps in the interest of providing liquidity for stable growth in the market, the stock market. But the thing
Mm,
that we really need to understand is that the market hasn't been stable for quite some time. It's been a lot of pumping, and I personally believe that these pumps have been at the expense of holding these indexes or these indices, at least until it's convenient for them to start saying, all right, well, let's start selling a little bit here, let's start selling a little bit there, because we need to rebalance, as was only said, our portfolios. We need to find a better strategy here, because it only holds for so long before investors start catching on and saying, I don't like how this growth isn't stable. These charts are not consistent enough. These
mhm.
patterns are making me confused. I'm not sure if my investment is going to last me worthwhile. And dividends have been missing their expectations as well, as far as dividends per share in the dividends market. And bonds are, of course, are not as attractive as they once used to be. And it's been like that for quite some time. It's just not as commonly talked about. But the rhetoric about
Right.
people saying that the Fed isn't going to have interest rate hikes, that's like them saying, yeah, that's like them taking back their promise of doing the tapering program in the first place. Because the reason why they're doing tapering is an attempt to show that we are in a good period of economic growth, thus not having to provide as much liquidity to keep stability in the
Mhm.
market. So they would have to reduce liquidity, otherwise it's completely contradictory to the rhetoric of everything that Jerome
Mhm.
Powell has said in all of his terms in his
Right.
on the board of governors. Like it would be completely contradictory in the simplest way that I can describe it.
Right. Yeah, I heard this interesting point. Now, he's not an economist who I heard this from or a finance expert, but he's just a really overall smart dude. Um, he said that I haven't looked into it, so I don't know how accurate it is. But for instance, like the housing market, we all know the housing market's booming right now. And
It is.
the point he made was the amount of debt you have to take out to then buy one of these properties sort of negates the gains. Like it's almost like back in the day when you would have bought a house for $80,000 or 20,000, 50, 60, whatever. Um, you're pretty much getting the same deal. You just have to take out more debt. I don't know how true that is because I haven't looked into the numbers or anything, but I thought that was interesting. I haven't looked at it from that angle before.
Well, you have to factor in variables like inflation as well. I mean, right
Right.
now in the real estate sector, it's more so a seller's market. I mean, if I were to sell a house, what I initially purchased at $200,000, I'm already looking at a 10% increase of
Right.
selling it. I'm getting above value for what I would sell right now if I were selling my house in the market, and I could do something serious with that amount of cash because my neighbor actually just recently sold her house and she got over 100 grand of what it's originally worth. And one thing to
Mhm.
understand about real estate is that when you have property in specific areas, especially in affluent communities, property value, even per street, will vary.
Mhm.
It will vary. It will vary
Mhm.
drastically. In fact, it's crazy how it works. Now, I didn't look into the mechanisms of how that's so, but she's she spoke with her realtor, and this is just information that I have been passed on, and that's been passed
Mhm.
on to me.
So,
Luckily,
so do you think we're going to go through a pretty hard correction in the traditional markets and probably crypto too,
yes,
because
yes.
of the rate hikes, the interest hikes, and then the trying to remove money out of circulation.
Like I said, the whole effort is to show that we are growing beyond that of the pandemic that has shaken our markets. I mean,
Mhm.
in March of 2020, if you knew that you had to sell, you would have sold, or you would have bought and put option contracts, which are basically betting that a certain asset will drop below what it was wavering at one point. So basically betting
Right.
that a stock will drop or fall. I don't want to say drop, but more so
Or
go in a
silver,
gradual
man. If you
decline.
got into silver during that time, I made a killing off of silver in the past two
I
years.
bet.
Yeah. So I don't have
It's
any more silver now. I only have all that silver. Yeah, all that silver is gone. I was one of the fortunate ones that I somehow timed the market correctly. I don't know. Maybe it'll go up some more, but I definitely sold it at a higher price than it's at currently. I believe, and that's because
absolutely. I think
I was buying it at the like really really lows.
absolutely.
But
And I think time will eventually catch up to the
yeah,
Fed. Time will eventually catch up with politics. Time will eventually catch up with crypto. Well, time has already caught up with crypto. Crypto's right now. I feel like crypto's in an adjustment period. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do you think as though in its current bearish trend that it could go any lower than what it is, or do you think that there is
oh yeah,
bullish
for
potential?
sure, for sure. It wouldn't surprise me to see Bitcoin go down to like I would say a range between 10 to 15K. I mean, that's just what it does. It drops like
Hmm.
85%. Ethereum drops about 90%. So with that, Ethereum would be like a few $100s. But I think that we're going to see something very interesting here. We're going to see a bifurcation or like a separation in the crypto market, I think. So there's going to be the market that follows Bitcoin, and then there's going to be this whole new ecosystem, the Richard Hart ecosystem. Let's say I bought some relatively safe calls on silver and pot stocks while they were down yesterday. Right on. I don't know if that's good or bad, but there you go.
Well,
Hopefully
those
it
are
works out
valuable
for you, man. Um,
valuable commodities nonetheless. So I
right.
wouldn't doubt that he's going to make something from it,
Well, we'll see.
or they.
Right. Right. So let's see. Legacy is setting up for a dead cat bounce, in my opinion. That's what Wales only had to say. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that, Matt? Well, let me finish making my point, and then I'll ask you what your thoughts on what Wales had to say. So I think that we're seeing this like split in the crypto market right now. So in a way, there is an adjustment. So and what I mean by that is we're going to have assets now being launched in the bear market, and it's just happened to be good timing. Pulse Chain and PulseX are going to be launching in the bear market. And so that right there just sets them up for a better chart than pretty much everything else. And plus, they're very valuable projects. On Pulse Chain, for those who are unaware, it's a fork of Ethereum. It's going to be proof of stake, and you're getting a copy of all your coins and NFTs on that chain. The transaction times are essentially free. I mean, you're talking fractions of a penny to make one transaction. So Pulse Chain is going to be coming out here soon. And then you have PulseX, which is going to be the automated market maker on Pulse Chain, where you're going to be able, the exchange, the decentralized exchange, where you're going to be able to swap out coins on Pulse Chain. And the tokenomics to PulseX are just insane. I mean, you have essentially automatic buyback pressure, and it's going to get I want to say, I don't know, it's going to get 0.6, something like that, 0.06 of the volume. And so if you scale that, you're talking potentially millions of dollars of buyback pressure once you get up to billions of dollars in that ecosystem, which is in the realm of possibilities because you have Uniswap, you have PancakeSwap, you have SushiSwap, all these other places, right, that do billions of dollars. So it's out of the realm of the possibilities. So anyway, what I'm getting at here is that you have these new crypto systems being built. They're going to run, I think, almost independent of the rest of the crypto market. So yes, there is a sort of adjustment because if you look at Hex, its liquidity pair is bonded to the USD, the USDC. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially bonded to the dollar, which is insane. But everything else is pretty much bonded to Bitcoin, right? And that's why you see the market tank, and that's why Hex is mostly decorrelated, if I'm not mistaken, from the rest of the market. So yeah, there will definitely be an adjustment. But anyway,
I think that Hex launching in a bear market is actually a really, really good Richard Hart strikes me as an opportunist, as a visionary, someone that sees that looks at bad times, that looks in the time of what's the word? He's more so, like I said, just an opportunist person, and that with all the uncertainty that's floating around in both the traditional markets and also the crypto markets, because you have a lot of newbies hopping on these virtual wallets, they don't know what to do. Let me tell you, Luis, I've already helped, since I've been on this mission, 5 different people set up a wallet. I already have a group chat, our military group chat, helped them set up a wallet, and they're doing pretty good right now. They haven't invested any money because before they invest, they want to know what they're getting involved in. And by the way, guys, check out the Telegram chat. We will be more than glad to navigate you through the process of setting yourself up with MetaMask. Or if not, look out there. There's tons of information out there on beautiful web. I call it YouTube University, but just look out there.
Right.
Venture out.
The Telegram chat really quick is t.me/MOT Media. We cover a lot of different stuff in there, but we will help you guide through the onboarding process, and we'll do one-on-one consultations if need be. Obviously free, obviously. People who charge you for that shit, they're scammers. Anyway, go ahead.
Word. And the question that the Wales had, what was it again?
So it wasn't a question. He just gave his opinion. He said Legacy is setting up for a dead cat bounce, in my opinion. I just wanted to hear your take on that.
To be honest with you, I don't have a take on that.
Fair enough.
I haven't looked into that.
Fair enough. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. As far traditional markets are not my expertise, so I won't even act like that. Neither is crypto. I'm not saying crypto is my expertise. I just pay more attention to crypto than I do the traditional markets. But yeah, I mean, it could be a setup. It could be a setup from what he's saying there. Temporary recovery. We'll see. Yeah, so I mean, what else do you got, Malcolm? I mean, as far as traditional markets, stuff like that. I mean, well, actually, before that,
I didn't want to derail. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to add another take to the whole, interest rate hikes and the the tapering of the printing of money, a lot of people don't realize that deflation is not bad for the common man because that means you'll be able to afford more. It's really bad for those who are lending out the money, the banks, the debt, the people that are giving out the debts, the lenders. It's more harmful to them than the average citizen, in my opinion. Now, I don't know how much it's going to affect the crypto and the stock market as far as our portfolios go, but as far as buying power, I do believe a deflationary period is beneficial for the average man. But you were going to say something else.
Well, that's actually really good that you said that, because I also believe, based off of me watching the consumer price index, I also believe that there is going to be a deflationary period. I mean, the Fed is already. I can't tell whether they're purposefully missing their projections, or they're getting things wrong, or they're causing mass confusion on purpose. I truly don't know what cards they're playing right now. But all I will say is that as interest rates continue to climb, consumers will be, as I mentioned earlier, more frugal with their finances, of course. Now, that will save people money as a result, because despite the fact that it will be easier to acquire this kind of debt, and it will be bad for the banks. Um, if a bank were to give me like a loan with a very high interest rate, well, I will tell you this: I will make every single payment, because if I'm paying back at a high interest rate, that's something I don't even want to walk in that kind of territory. But that also depends on my credit and so many other parameters. But
Right.
long story short, it allows for flexibility, and I think more people would actually be able to get approved for debt for taking out loans through these lenders, and banks are going to go, oh my god, we have so many people taking out debt. But I think it's also in a way to build growth as far as that goes. But I think, like, with the fact that crypto is becoming more prominent for entities using making ETFs, exchange traded funds, with crypto, I feel like they're going to try, in a sense, to blend the crypto market with the traditional market. And in a
Yeah,
sense,
for sure.
the traditional market will be somewhat correlated with investments tied to the crypto market. So I
I
feel
mean, they
like,
already are, like Bitcoin's really correlated to the stock market, right? So, like, that's already
no
happening. I
doubt,
mean,
no doubt.
we're already seeing that there's a lot of crypto, not a lot, but there's at least one in particular that I can think of, Kraken, who is applying for a bank charter in Wyoming. I think the Fed, Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, was like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that." But they already are. They already have some similarities to what a bank is over there in Wyoming. I can't remember the exact details, but yeah, I've been saying that for a while, that we're going to see crypto exchanges become the new banks. I mean, that's just where we're heading. And these new payment methods like PayPal, Cahsapp, they're going to become sort of like neobanks, I believe. And obviously, they're going to be intertwined with crypto. They already are. So that's why I think it's important to really know the difference between centralized and decentralized finance, because you'll need to know those two differences, the differences between the two, to understand how they're going to become one. That doesn't mean all decentralized finance will be connected with centralized finance, but they definitely will have a majority where they will be a hybrid. And it's just natural because people want middlemen. I don't care what anybody says in crypto. I get it. I'm all for the whole no middleman. I own my private keys, right? Like I want to have financial responsibility over my stuff, over my crypto,
As
right?
you should.
Right. And I have to accept the fact, as a lot of other people do, that there are people who don't want to bear that responsibility. Therefore, there's an opportunity for people who say, I will bear that responsibility for you, to come in and say, let's have a bank, let's have a hybrid system. So that's what's going to happen. I think you're right on the money when you say that they're going to merge together. For sure, they definitely are. We're already seeing it, and it's not unwarranted. People want it. So, like everybody complains about the government doing things to try to get over on people. Everybody worries about these corporations doing things to screw the people. But in reality, you have to understand all of this is governed, all of this is dictated by what the people want, actually. Actually, people want to feel protected. People don't want to bear that responsibility. People, and you can, there's definitely brainwashing, there's definitely programming that, guide people into that, mentality. But for the most part, you know, anyway, yeah. People want it. People want it, and therefore, there's going to be a market for whatever they want, and that's what we see right now, right?
Well, of course, you have some. That's just how simple supply and demand works. I mean, if there's a market for something, I'm sorry, if there's a demand for something, of course, there will obviously be a supplier or a producer. And in this particular instance, there would be producers to provide for the consumers. People naturally, like you mentioned, and I'm going to equate it to my understanding as an investor. I'm a consumer. I like to consume based off of the product that's provided to me. Now, would I go out of my own realm of being responsible or perhaps taking on that additional responsibility to be a producer? No, that's where people such as yourself, Luis, would be a producer for consumers such as myself if you do want to provide. In fact, now tell me if I get this wrong, but would you being a liquidity provider, you being a producer in a sense?
Uh, yeah, I mean, you're allowed. I would think so. I would say yeah, because you're providing money for people to do what they do. So, like, if you're a sacrificer in PulseX, well, actually, that's not true. So, anyway, if you're just like a liquidity provider and like the decentralized exchange, allowing people to facilitate trades, I mean, you are sort of contributing to um, that network, right? So I don't know if you're not really producing. I mean, yeah, you're producing liquidity, but anyway, yeah.
No, I mean, no, that gives me the answer that I was hoping for because at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, there's going to be a demand for it regardless. There's a demand for anything. There's a market, and you can make a market out of literally anything as long as there's demand.
Mhm.
And in this particular asset, there's an insurmountable amount of demand, especially with crypto becoming more prominent. People actually finally hearing about it. Now, I think at this point, people need a sense of direction. And as people navigate throughout these either centralized or decentralized platforms, it's up to them to determine what works best for them. A lot of people
Mhm.
navigate towards Binance or Coinbase,
Mhm.
perhaps, and if that works for them, that works for them. But just be wary. I mean, you may, you know, uh,
Yeah, you can
ex-
get hacked. You can
yeah,
lose all your money, and if you hold your money on a centralized exchange in crypto, it ain't your money. It just isn't your money. Somebody else is holding that money for you. Like, for example, Tether, they have blacklisted addresses to where they can no longer send their USDT anywhere. And they also have the ability to reverse transactions from one wallet to the other when they send USDT to it. So you know, um,
oh,
yeah,
that's
you
out of
just got to be
control, man. I
careful.
don't know how I'd feel about that if I
Well,
were
I mean,
if
there's
I were.
definitely pros and cons, right? So, like, let's say, for instance, you know, you make a mistake, you send the money that you wanted to send to somebody else, but you send it to the wrong address, right?
Mhm.
Well, with Tether, there's a potential that they can reverse that transaction and send you back money. So there's that pro, but the huge con is that they can blacklist you, and it is the antithesis of what crypto was made for, because the cryptocurrency built on the blockchain was made to be censorship resistant. So Tether is not really a cryptocurrency at all. Neither is USDC or a lot of so-called cryptos that are on, the market. The top 10, top I can't say top 10, but we'll say like top 100. Are they really cryptocurrencies? Not really. But yeah, so I mean, there are some benefits to it, but you have to understand the risk that you'll endure with that. So, for example, just understand there's like a compromise with every decision you make. And I'm going to say something that's kind of controversial, especially in the hex community. But like, for instance, the origin address, right? There's a portion of funds during the emergency end stakes that go to the origin address. Now, the origin address thus far has been benevolent. It has only helped the ecosystem. And nobody knows who owns the origin address or who controls the origin address. It can be a group of people, it can be one person, it can be a robot. Who really knows? But the origin address could one day in the future fuck the whole system. Just to say it very bluntly. It could.
Mm-hmm.
It has that potential to do so. But it doesn't mean that it will. The potential is there. So you're compromising, right? So, like, the point I'm making here, I guess another example would be like, so I've learned this from Walrus, right? So Walrus, he's pretty much the mouthpiece for the How To Pulse team. We interviewed about a month ago now. We had an interview about a month ago that will be airing sometime next month, where we go really
nice.
we go in depth on PulseX. Dude's really, really smart. Anyway, he taught me something that I never knew and I never even considered, but it makes a lot of sense. So I'll ask you this question.
Go ahead.
Would you want to teach your kids to read?
Teach my kids to read?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, right. Now, did you know by teaching your kids to read, there's research that has been done to suggest that you are decreasing their ability to remember things.
So by teaching my kids to read, I would be decreasing their ability to remember.
Yeah, and it makes sense if you think about it, because if you don't know how to read, you're then dependent on being told information and then retaining that information because you can't go back and just read it. So, for instance, you and I, we both know how to read. Pretty much everybody in here probably knows how to read. So, there's a lot of information that we're like, I don't need to remember. It's in this book. So, I can just go back to this book and read it, or I can just Google it and read it. But if you don't know how to read, you're then forced to use more of your memory. And so the whole point that was trying to be made with these examples here is that you have to compromise, right? There's compromise with everything. And that's what you're going to get in the crypto market is just, you cannot not compromise. Like, you're just going to have to compromise and give up something, right? Like, you give up a level of protection, if you will, by going completely, self-sufficient when it comes to your money, right? Like, not self-sufficient, but rather self-reliant when it comes to your money. If you're in crypto and you're like, yeah, I got my seed phrase punched into some washers or to this metal board, right? So they're good for fires or floods or stuff like that. They're going to last 20, 30, 40 years. But then there's a lot of other risks that you endure for that. So yeah, that's basically the point I was making is that you have to choose.
And to touch on that as well, I agree, because you will have to make affirmative decisions when investing. Like, I have to do that with my investments, right? But I understand the risk associated with it. That if I buy something, that I have the potential of losing everything that I've invested in that initial asset. And I feel like people, there is a demographic in all markets, right? There's going to be those reluctant buyers that don't know what the result could be, so their reluctance is what's going to cause them to miss out on an opportunity, and then they're going to be very sporadic with their investments or whatever they're buying because now they're FOMOing, right? Exactly. And then you have that demographic where you have people that don't give a fuck. They don't care at all. They're over here gambling. They're degenerate gamblers. They're just throwing the money at just about everything. And it's a lot of trial and error for them. And that's okay, but like, don't waste all of your money. There's this thing called risk management. You need to mitigate your risk. If you make, let's say, here's a quick example. If I make $1,000 off of an investment, any asset, just, it doesn't matter if it's crypto, if it's traditional, a means to mitigate that risk so I can avoid loss. Obviously, I wouldn't invest all of that back. I wouldn't throw all my eggs back into the same basket. I would hold a little bit of cash, and then I would do dollar cost averaging. So I guess I am essentially throwing my eggs back into one basket, but I'm also mitigating my loss so I can increase my gain potential. Like that's a strategy that's worked for me so that when it's at its highest high, and this gets a little bit into trading, but it also applies to investing because you can obviously rebalance your portfolio. Like right now, a lot of people rebalancing their portfolios because it's not where they
Mhm.
want it to be. They'd be losing more if they continue to help to hold right now. So they're rebalancing. They're withdrawing. They're holding back. Okay, or reducing the amount that they own at this point, which obviously is indicated in the markets. It's a bearish trend. There's sellers. There's a lot of sellers in the market more than buyers. And with that being said, you're just mitigating loss, but you're initially going back into that investment. Because I will say, Luis, from the screenshots that you sent in the Telegram group chat about the crypto charts from Hex and all the other ones, I've noticed, and I looked at the market cap from at Hex from when you initially started sending those screenshots to the most recent one, and I've seen the market cap fluctuate, and I can just tell that
Mhm.
that's just that shows to me a lot of uncertainty and a lot of reluctance. And if that's as true as it is, then I mean, there's always going to be a lot of reluctance when it comes to this kind
Right.
of thing. But right now, because crypto is it's so it's been around for some time, but it's reaching it's getting a whole new reach. Older people are out here getting on this kind of thing like they haven't done it before because at one point they were like, "Oh man, I don't want to do that. I don't trust it. I don't trust the world. I don't trust banks." I'm like, "Well, man, if you understand decentralized and centralized, you see something a little bit differently." But that's besides the point. And then you have younger people that are like, "Man, I want to get into this crypto thing, but I don't know how it works." Well, figure it out. It's not hard. It's not as hard as one would make of it. And honestly, it involves mental fortitude. Mental fortitude is key, and you have to be wary of what you're buying, and you have to be sure so that you don't get scammed. Once again, I will say it. I've been scammed, but I've learned, and I will continue to progress because I know, at least now, how I can look for the telltale signs of what I would believe is a scam. And if I'm unsure, if I still have that little bit of uncertainty there, I'm probably not going to buy it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to buy it because that the heightened probability of being losing more than I would winning, well, obviously tells me right then and there I'm not going to buy it. But I don't get mad about my reluctance anymore because I know that I'm better off knowing what I'm buying and knowing about it completely, which is why it's important to look into these projects. It's important to look into these assets, how long they've been around, where they've gone, what their trend indicates. And even then, just ask people, do some reconnaissance, do some research, some due diligence yourself. You'll feel way better investing in something if you know what you're buying after you buy it. It's
Right.
just risk management is the key here.
Right. I will push back a little bit. Diversification isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think when you don't have much to begin with,
Oh, you're pushing back.
you,
Oh,
yeah,
I gotta hear this.
yeah. So, I mean, if you don't have much to begin with, go all in, baby. Go all in. Diversify once you have enough to still make, like, think about it, like, let's say hedge funds, they short some stuff, they do quick trades, they hedge, right? But if they only make 2% on $2 billion of the money that they're funding, like, that's a decent chunk of money, right?
Undoubtedly,
So if
yes.
you get 6, 7%, that's a decent chunk of money. But let's say you're diversifying and you're hedging some of it, you're recovering some of your losses from these stocks and those stocks or cryptos, but you only have $1,000 to play with. You'd be better off doing, paying a lot of attention and going all in on something. I'm not a financial advisor. That's just my opinion. Let me just say that. That's my opinion. But on a totally different note, let's talk about this right here, man. Like, whoa, $1 billion has been sacrificed for PulseX.
That's
That's
amazing.
wild. That's wild. Way more than what happened with Pulse Chain. So Pulse Chain, people are still sacrificing, by the way, which is insane to me because the sacrifice rate is like over $1, right? So $1 gets you one pulse right now. Not even actually. It's like $1.10. When I sacrificed for Pulse Chain, I got 10,000 sacrifice points for every dollar I spent.
Nice.
That's fucking insane. And now people are spending $1 to get one pulse. Not even, actually. That's crazy. So I would not recommend anybody sacrifice for Pulse Chain, wait for it to launch, and you would certainly get a much better deal than that, because most people, I don't think, are aware of this. At least people who aren't paying attention to the new ecosystem being built here. But Pulse Chain is launching at 0, guys. 0. So, yeah, I mean, the price discovery will happen as soon as it launches. So it's not coming out at $1. It's not coming out at 50 cents. It's not coming out at 1 penny. It's coming out at 0. So understand that. So, yeah, and same thing I think for Pulse X. So, but yeah, with Pulse X, $1 billion has been sacrificed so far. And yeah, I mean, there's still time to sacrifice within the sacrifice period. I'm not exactly sure where we are on that scale. Let's visit Pulse X. I mean, Pulse X. Let's see here. Will it tell us? Let's get out of this link. And let me show this other screen here. And it'll show us exactly where we are in the Pulse X sacrifice. So right here is where we're at. So it looks like in order to get a 10,000 sacrifice points, at this point you need to sacrifice like almost $3, so like $2.50, $2.60, just to get 10,000. I think if I'm reading this chart correctly. Let's see, 265. It's right here. Yep. So I could have just looked right there instead of trying to guess it on the chart. But 265 for 10,000, get you 10,000 sacrifice points. Not bad, not great. I mean, definitely down here in this window from December 29th to January 10th was the best time to get in, because for $1 you're getting 10,000 sacrifice points. But still not a bad time to consider sacrificing. There's some people out there who think that it would be wise to wait to get into Pulse X and just buy more Hex and stake it, which, hey, it might be right. I don't know. Once again, not financial advice. These are just different ideas that we're presenting to you. Yeah, man, but I don't really have much more to say at the moment. I do appreciate you hopping on in, sharing some of the updates you got on the market. Hopefully
Absolutely,
we can,
man.
You can hop in some more on Fridays. I know it's kind of hard for you with what you're doing. So, yeah, man, but it's definitely been a pleasure talking. I'm glad you're doing well. And yeah, guys, so be sure to subscribe. Thank you again. We hit 300 subscribers, so that's really cool. Really pumped about that. And yeah, so be sure to subscribe, share this, hit the like button, all that good stuff. Don't forget to, let's just throw that up there. I like,
there we go.
StreamYard. I'm really digging StreamYard lately. I think it's a really good program to do live streams on. But yeah, so Sunday, Mick and I, see you guys. Let's see. Yeah, so somebody just asked, are we on Twitter? We are on Twitter. We are at MOT Media 1. MOT Media 1. I'll put it in here. So at MOT Media 1 is where you can find us. I'll put this on one of the banners too. So let's put that in there for you guys. MOT Media 1.
Yeah, I like StreamYard too. It's a nice program. Good stuff.
Let's see. Bang, right there's our Twitter handle. You can find us on Instagram like that. Peace Whales, I saw that you were saying peace. So peace, man. Thanks for popping on in. Really appreciate the support and love. So that's where you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram with that handle. If you want to visit our website, it's tell.ie/MOT Media. Pretty cool. And then, like I said, Sunday we have another live stream, MOT Today. where we're going to be covering current events, and we're going to be talking about state, national, and global. The state for us is Ohio. We have a person who works for like the local NPR stuff coming on to talk about the gerrymandering. She works for like Idea Stream. She's a journalist for the State House Bureau. Yeah, so it's going to be pretty cool. We're going to talk about gerrymandering. Then we're going to talk about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. So yeah, be sure to tune in there. There's a lot of good information that's going to be shared. And then this upcoming Monday, we also have a new interview coming out for Minds of Tomorrow. We'll release that on Sunday. Who's that going to be? Who's that interview going to be with? So, yeah, guys. Malcolm, you got any parting words?
Yes, I do. I just want to say, love all your faces. You guys are amazing. We're going to keep growing the MOT family here, the MOT community. Want you guys to stay wise, stay alert, and watch out for our next episode. We got great things coming up, so stick around. And Luis, you have yourself a great night, man.
Thanks, you too, bro. All right, peace, guys.